Maynard, Plum Catalogue UE Introduction. WK have been honored with a commission from Luther Burbank, of Santa Rosa, California, and have accepted the work of propagating for, and introducing to the horticultural public his grand new plum, Maynard, an appeal to all lovers of good fruits to help us in the introduction and dissemination of this his latest and greatest effort. Mr. Burbank has done more than any other living man in the introduction of new and valuable varieties of fruits and flowers, and he is still working away, and no doubt will bring forth from nature's storehouse many more valuable varieties, that in turn will stimulate coming generations to plant and care for trees and flowers that will increase the world's wealth, and add pleasure and happiness to the homes of millions of people yet unborn. The Maynard plum is sent out by Mr. Burbank with the assurance that it surpasses in quality and beauty of fruit any plum heretofore introduced. We bespeak for the Maynard, through the hearty cooperation of fruit growers everywhere, such a sale as Mr. Burbank*'s best efforts so richly deserve and merit. The many testimonials received by Mr. Burbank from eminent authorities throughout the country easily give the Maynard first place amongst the best varieties of plums. We are introducing the Maynard under a contract that gives to Mr. Burbank a royalty on each tree sold, and all will concede that he has well earned by his long years of toil in the origination of new fruits and flowers all that will come to him in honor and money from the sale of this new plum. Oregon Nursery Company, Ltd. Lilio, and it may concern. This is to certify that I have, under royalty contract, assigned to the Oregon Nursery Company, of Salem, Oregon, the sole right to propagate and introduce my new plum Maynard, and that no other person has ever received any buds or scions, or have any right to propagate or introduce the Maynard, except under contract from the Oregon Nursery Company. I consider the Maynard one of the best plums that I have ever introduced. Dated at Santa Rosa, California, this first day of December, 1902. Signed, Luther Burbank, the grand new plum Maynard. We introduce the Maynard with every confidence that it will prove the peer of any plum that has heretofore been propagated, and do so with every assurance that it will prove a great acquisition to the home garden and orchard, and will be a most profit-able plum for the commercial orchardist, combining, as it does, large size, excellent flavor and color, with shipping qualities not found in any other plum. When we consider that samples of the Maynard were shipped through the mails during the warmest months of summer from Santa Rosa, California, across the mountains and plains to Vermont, and were returned to Mr. Burbank at Santa Rosa in perfect condition, it becomes evident that the Maynard combines the great carrying qualities necessary for long-distance shipment, which is the essential consideration in a shipping plum, and one which is often lacking in varieties possessing flavor and other good qualities. The horticultural public have been for many years looking for a plum that would give them not only the fine quality that would remind their city customers of the fruit eaten in youthful days, but would also admit of being carried to distant markets in perfect condition. Mr. Burbank, himself, the greatest originator of plums in the world, has striven for many years to accomplish this end, and in the many splendid plums he has previously introduced, has often almost reached this point of perfection. In Maynard he has given to the horticultural world his latest and greatest effort in the plum line, and we believe he has reached the point of perfection. The Maynard begins to ripen about July-ist, at Santa Rosa, California, following closely after that other magnificent introduction of Burbank, Climax, and just at a season of the year when plums are in best demand in the great markets, but instead of coming and going swiftly as is the regrettable habit of plums, the season of ripening for the Maynard extends all through July and far into August. In size it is very large, often measuring 7½ inches or more in circumference, form nearly round, slightly flattened at the ends, of richest crimson purple, deepening to royal damask as full ripeness is reached. A more beautiful fruit were hard to imagine. The flesh is firm even when dead ripe, but melting and juicy, with a deliciousness indescribable. Beside this combination of beauties to delight the eye and palate, The ripe fruits have a charming fragrance unusual to plums. Few fruits could please so many of the senses as this new beauty, now added to Mr. Burbank's list of triumphs. In vigor of tree and habit of growth it far surpasses any other plum. In its evolution Mr. Burbank has preserved to a remarkable degree every desirable trait, carefully suppressing the thorny, slender, sprangling tree habit of plums, and we have it sturdy, strong, and a very rapid grower, spreading just as large as it ought to and no more. It fruits heavily every year, not overbearing, but yielding a full, vigorous, satisfactory crop. Add to these admirable points the fact of its heavy, luxuriant foliage and its habit of bearing its burden of fruit on the inside of the tree, where is the greatest strength, and we have little else to ask for in a plum. When we consider the many thousands of fruits that Mr. Burbank originates, and the few that he introduces, we have a better appreciation of the great care he exercises in sending out a new variety. He has made it a rule never to offer to the public any of his specialties, until he has thoroughly tested them himself, from every standpoint, and feels satisfied that they are an improvement over varieties previously introduced, and although Mr. Burbank received such flattering comments on the Maynard in July 1900, as these words from Professor Maynard, the eminent horticulturist in whose honor the plum was named, "I consider this the best plum, all things considered, that I have seen on your place today." Mr. Burbank went on and fruited it for 2 more years before offering it for sale, making 5 years in all that Mr. Burbank has fruited the Maynard and Lee's famous experimental and testing grounds. Always watch ing for some weak point that might develop in this new fruit. It was not until he had thoroughly satisfied himself that the Maynard possessed unusual points of beauty, flavor, and shipping qualities of the fruit, together with a vigorous, hardy, and healthy growth of tree, that he consented to introduce it. In the Maynard plum we have a tree that is perfection itself, a strong, vigorous constitution, dense, compact head, with large apricot-like leaves, thickly distributed over the entire tree, forming a pied client for the young fruit from winds and rain in the early spring, and a shelter from the intense heat of the sun later in the season. The branches are strong and sturdy, well able to bear up the heavy load of fruit which the Maynard always brings forth. Luther Burbank. We do not like the term wizard as applied to the originator of this, and so many other priceless fruits. Not a wizard who practices to deceive, but rather the artist, studying deeply, earnestly, the principles underlying plant production, and applying them to the ends that shall be the ideal he has set before him. Delving deep for truth, and when he has found it, using it as does the sculptor his chisel, to let the angel out of his block of marble. From Burbank's earnest thought, and the years of patient determined work following thereon, have come new creations of trees and plants, marvelous fruits and flowers, so wonderful and charming that small wonder the quiet man who did all this should be called wizard. But let us call him rather master of modern horticulture. For certainly no man has so successfully mastered and applied the great principles underlying the genealogy of plants. We would not give him a title taken from the Dark Ages, when mystery prevailed in the minkles of men, but place him at the head of that great modern industry which has made such wonderful progress in the last decade. Master of modern horticulture, more honored title than master of 1,000 battlefields, or master of the greatest nation of the earth. His personality impresses you as one of intense quietness, as of an exterior hushed, the better to sense the wondrous mysteries of plant development. With all of his achievement there is nothing of vaunting. With simple earnestness, even almost with reverend awe, he speaks of those nature forces he makes use of to build his grand new types. Only in teaching, in telling how best to produce and utilize these new creations, does he come out from that other life and talk willingly. At other times his being seems devoted to the exercise of that, shall we call it a sixth sense, not seeing, hearing, smelling, touching, tasting, but in some way comprehending, and using plant forces to work out certain conceptions that shall give to the world something of great value and utility. Vanity in him has no part. You hear him quietly and humbly wonder why it is that nature simply refuses to accept certain combinations or propagations, even though more radical ones in similar directions are a complete success. He only says, as of a secret not yet revealed, that he doesn't know why,